all in their 2014 study at UOIT and Durham College point out that transfer agreements are quite complicated. Because every institution develops their own policies, agreements between institutions, it can be very complicated. Furthermore, there's no standardization from province to province, so Ontario is quite different than other provinces. However, they do note that there are several different types of transfer agreements. There's credit agreements, there's pathway and bridging programs, and there's partnership. In my analysis, I go into further detail explaining each of these. These programs, however, as mentioned in the intro, can open up a world of opportunity to students. They can take them from one institution to the other in a shorter amount of time. However, they aren't without their complications. Lacane's magazine states that students often complain that they don't understand the programs and that they are made more complicated by their websites and lack of communications from the universities. So students navigating this information from a recruitment perspective can be quite complicated. While these programs offer up a lot of opportunity for students and open up new doors and new ways to go, they aren't without their frustrations. So I wanted to focus my analysis on the specific role the academic advisor plays as the students transfer and how their position might change and need to change as these programs become increasingly more popular and the number of students in this population who transfer increases. While there is lots of policy and practice that can be examined, I decided to focus in on the college to university transfer between Durham College, UIT, and Trent, as well as the partnership program between Brock University and Niagara College. The reason I chose these specific institutions was because I've had personal experience with some of them, as well as there's a lot more research that exists about these programs and that were easier to find. Allen et al. In their 2014 study, where they looked at students who they surveyed them pre-transfer and post-transfer. This study took place in the United States. However, it was going from a community college to a four-year university institution. So what they did talk about was really relevant to my study. So they talked about that the students in the post-transfer had a much more negative experience than those in the pre-transfer. So the students who were at the university level complained a lot about having a negative experience with their academic advising at that level. They said once they reached the university environment, they felt a bit lost, going as far as to say that the university should model their advising after the college system. They found that the communication was lacking and that advisors weren't helpful when it came to existing issues such as course registration. Unlike their college counterparts, they felt that they were forced to be a bit more independent. Similarly, Percival et al. Found that their study of Durham College and UIT that they were not receiving accurate information once they got to UIT. They had a lot of issues with registration of their courses, and the course registration system wasn't recognizing the block credits that they were promised when they left Durham College. So the students went to the academic advisors, and the academic advisors could do little to help them. And this was obviously caused a lot of frustration and fear within the students because without getting those credit recognition, they obviously felt as though they may not graduate on time, they may not get into the right courses, and all that other pressure that came along, especially since they're doing now a condensed program. So when we look at these individual institutions' policies on advising, we can see that Durham College states that students can come to the advisor to assist with transfer. So this is stated on their website of things that academic advisors can actually do. At the university level, however, transfer transition is not mentioned as a key service of advisors at either Trent or UIT. So when we go to their website and look at what advisors can offer current students, there's no mention of transfer program or transition to make that a smooth transition from college to university. While on the individual level, students may get assistance from the advisor because we can't know from reading these articles whether the individuals in these roles currently do assist with this. The university, however, doesn't state that this is an area advisors focus on. Percival et al. Point out that students transitioning come with a number of expectations and often struggle once they arrive. They point out that they often don't have the same sort of orientation as high school to university students get. They're often now in a larger environment and with more academic expectations, or the expectations change. There's a higher focus on writing skills, on research skills, on these sorts of things. they also mentioned that there's a bit of a cultural difference between the university and college, and this all impacts students' success and their impression of the course. From my own personal experience, working with transfer students, they often do feel out of place when they are at the university environment, and they don't feel like they quite fit in with the more traditional students. It was my experience that transfer students tend to socialize together, and then students who aren't transfer and regular four-year path students, they tend to socialize together. So the transfer students don't necessarily feel fully immersed in the university experience or with their other university peers. We could also hypothesize that universities simply view transfer students as part of the university community, and this is why they don't think that they would need special assistance, which isn't a bad assumption to make. However, these students clearly are struggling with that transition because they don't maybe receive the same support you would if you entered in year one. The research does show that students in these programs, while successful, felt that this experience was while they were successful, they felt that the experience wasn't seamless. And this ultimately would impact their experience and be their takeaway from the program, one of their takeaways from the program. At the university level, I would recommend that universities address why students do not feel included, and this can be evaluating how certain roles are designed and assist with making students transition easier. So the academic advisor could assist with making this transition more seamless. So where do we start with this? The common answer in the research was that communication between institutions. Students often felt as though they were the link between the two institutions, that they were the ones that had to make that connection. However, the communication should be at the institutional level. While the institutions may feel it's fluid, students are ultimately the ones experiencing the issues for registration and for advising. In Wilson et al.'s study of Niagara College and Brock University, for their partnership agreement, the recommendation was that there be a joint person between two institutions, so hired would be an employee of both Niagara College and Brock University, and would allow students to have an advisor throughout their diploma degree transitions. So this person would act as the connection between the two. They suggested that this would save time and money for both institutions. While I didn't have a chance to study every institution, this may be in place in some places. However, it is complicated because the institutions are largely run independently. Allen et al. Also recommend having a specific transfer advisor for their students, and that would help liaise between the two institutions. So what else is complicated, and as we see in Percival et al., is that what we've learned in this class is that students who transfer tend to do academically better. So the universities may sympathize with students' struggle to fit in, but there is not quantitative evidence that their marks and academic success is actually impacted. So, however, I would argue that universities benefit from these programs significantly, and that they are able to get the tuition that they are able to get tuition from students that they may not have been able to otherwise. And this ultimately, by not supporting them as they transition, will impact their reputation and potentially future students of this program. Furthermore, I would argue that there are advisors for students with unique needs, such as international students. These have unique advisors on campus. So as transfer students' population increases, it's possible to see the academic advising role evolving or developing maybe another academic advisor that's unique just to transfer students.